The forest had always been a place of mystery, a land filled with secrets whispered by the wind. Many who entered never returned, and those who did were never the same. A seasoned hunter named Kolechi ventured deep into Ebonwood Forest. He had spotted an antelope earlier and was eager to make a catch, but as he stalked his prey a strange rustling stopped him in his tracks. This was no ordinary sound, it was unnatural, heavy, and chilling. Kolechi turned sharply, instincts on high alert, but saw nothing. The forest fell into a haunting silence save for the faint rustle of leaves. Then the bird suddenly scattered from the trees, wings flapping in frantic terror. A shadow moved behind him, something massive, something deadly. Before Kolechi could react, he felt the air shift. He turned around just in time to see a monstrous serpent unlike anything he had ever seen. Its scales shimmered under the dim light, eyes burning with cold, unrelenting hunger. Kolechi opened his mouth to scream, but before his sound escaped the snake launched a single strike. A muffled cry, then silence. Professor Mensah was a senior lecturer in the Department of Botany at Newbridge University. He was in his 40s, handsome, and surprisingly free of the signs of age many of his peers had. With a charming smile and confident demeanor he caught the admiration of many female students, and he took pride in that fact. But there was one student who remained immune to his advances, Amora. Amora was 21, strikingly beautiful and exceptionally intelligent. Her presence turned heads and she commanded respect in lecture halls. Male and female classmates alike admired her. Despite the attention, she remained focused on her academics. As a final-year student, her CGPA stood at an impressive 4.5, firmly in first-class territory. She had no time for distractions and was determined to graduate with honors. One afternoon, Professor Mensah summoned Amora to his office under the pretense of discussing a research project. As she entered, she sensed something off about his demeanor. He praised her brilliance, but soon his words shifted. He leaned closer, his tone became suggestive. "You're an exceptional student," he said, eyes locked on her. "But sometimes intelligence needs guidance. I can make things much easier for you." Amora's expression remained unchanged. "Sir, I prefer to earn my grades on merit," she replied coldly. Professor Mensah chuckled. "Come on, Amora. You don't have to be so rigid. A brilliant girl like you should know how things work around here." A surge of disgust rose in Amora. Without another word she stood, grabbed her books, and walked out of his office. At that moment Dr. Kemi, a fellow lecturer, was walking in and saw the young student's unmistakable look of anger and disgust. Dr. Kemi didn't need to ask questions, she knew Professor Mensah was at it again. Inside, Professor Mensah felt embarrassed and angry. He had never been rejected so badly before. For it to happen in front of another faculty member wounded his pride. He clenched his jaw and muttered, "She will regret this." A few days later the project topics and supervisors were posted. Excited students rushed to the notice board. Amora's heart sank when she saw her name listed under Professor Mensah. She froze in place, her throat tightened. This was no coincidence, she knew he had orchestrated it. She needed to get out of that situation fast. Without hesitation she marched to the head of department's office, Dr. Baligan, to request a change of advisor. Dr. Baligan listened, then raised an eyebrow. "You haven't worked with Professor Mensah before. What exactly is your reason?" he asked. Amora hesitated. She could not tell him about the professor's advances, it would sound petty and worse, who would believe her? Saying she simply didn't want to work with him didn't feel strong enough. Defeated, she exhaled. "Nothing, sir. I work with him," she muttered. Dr. Baligan nodded and said, "Good. Now go and focus on your research." As she left his office her heart felt heavy, she had no choice but to accept her fate. The next day Amora, Tola and Chaik, the three students assigned to Professor Mensah, reported to his office. The moment they walked in, Mensah's smile widened. He finally had Amora where he wanted her. "My brilliant students," he said smoothly, motioning to seats. "Your research project is on the legendary plant Life Bloom, the lifesaver." He leaned forward, his eyes gleamed. "This plant is rare. Some say it can heal the most fatal wounds, others believe it can bring the dead back to life. A plant like this, properly studied, could change medicine as we know it. The students exchanged intrigued glances. A plant that could bring back the dead sounded like folklore more than science. Mensah then said, "I want you all to make your findings and report back in 2 days. Then we will discuss the next phase." As the students left the office, Mensah leaned back, smiling. He knew much more about Life Bloom than he had told them, but he had no intention of sharing everything yet. This project could elevate him to global recognition, and more importantly, it gave him a perfect excuse to keep Amora close. Led by Amora, the 3 students began theoretical research on Life Bloom, also known locally as the blood orchid. They discovered its immense benefits. The plant had once been used to cure a deadly disease in ancient times, then mysteriously vanished. Further research revealed that the only known remaining location of the plant was deep within Ebonwood Forest, a place feared for its legends of disappearances and supernatural occurrences. But the value of Life Bloom was undeniable. The students became deeply invested in the project. This wasn't just any assignment, this could change their lives. After weeks of theoretical work, it was time to retrieve the plant. Hugo, a native of Noro village, knew how perilous the journey would be. The forest was a place people dreaded entering, but instead of warning them off, Professor Mensah encouraged them to proceed. For years he had longed to acquire Life Bloom, but fear of Ebonwood had held him back. Now an opportunity had presented itself. He would let the students take the risk. If successful, he stood to make a fortune, and he secretly hoped to use the trip to punish Amora. To increase their chances, he assigned 2 postgraduate students, Ife and Sod, to join the team. Together Amora, Tola, Chaik, Ife and Sod embarked on the journey to Ebonwood, filled with excitement and ambition. They were convinced their discovery could change their lives forever, if only they knew what awaited them. Upon arriving in Noro village, the team was directed to Bamadil, a local fisherman known for his deep knowledge of the forest. They found him adjusting his nets by the river and explained the mission. Bamadil chuckled and shook his head. "Why would any sane person want to go into Ebonwood?" he asked. When Amora told him about their research, his face turned serious. "It's been a long time since I set foot in that place," he said, hoping to scare them off. To his shock, they agreed to pay the price he demanded. He had no way out. "Go get some food and rest. We leave at dawn," he told them. At the break of dawn, Amora and her team, accompanied by Bamadil, set out for Ebonwood Forest. The atmosphere was thick with mist and the dense foliage seemed to swallow the narrow trail ahead. The further they ventured, the quieter the forest became. No bird songs, no rustling lips, just an eerie silence that unsettled them. Bamadil, leading the way, kept glancing over his shoulder. "We must move fast and be careful. The forest is strange," he muttered. Amora, though focused on their mission, couldn't shake an overwhelming feeling of being watched. Chaik, attempting to lighten the mood, joked, "Maybe the trees have ears." His laughter was short-lived when a sudden rustling broke the silence. Everyone froze. The sound wasn't from any small animal, it was something bigger. "Grab your machete," Chaik whispered. Bamadil held up a hand for silence, face pale. "We need to move now," he said. They quickened their pace, but with every step the feeling of unease deepened. The shadows seemed to shift, the air growing thicker. Then, as they reached the heart of the forest, a piercing shriek tore through the trees. Something was out there and it was watching them. The shriek sent shivers down their spines. Amora's heart pounded. "What was that?" she whispered. Before anyone could respond, the bushes ahead rustled violently. Chaik stepped back, gripping Amora's arm. "Tell me that's not an animal." Then the figure lunged forward, a monstrous serpent larger than anything they had ever seen slid into their path. Its scales shone like whetstone. Before they could think, the giant snake struck. In one swift moment it swallowed Chaik whole. "No!" Bamadil screamed. Panic set in as the students ran for their lives, crashing through thick jungle foliage. They ran blindly, their only thought escape. The ground beneath them shook as the massive serpent glittered after them. Without thinking, they reached the edge of a steep cliff with no other choice. They jumped, plunging into the raging river below. The cold water enveloped them, their bodies sank before they fought their way to the surface. Gasping for air, They swam frantically to the nearest shore. Once on land, Amora turned to Bamadil. "What was that?" she asked, voice trembling. Bamadil, still catching his breath, stared at her. "It's a river more," he said. "I only heard stories." Amora's eyes widened with anger. "Why didn't you tell us there were snakes here?" she snapped. "Shut up. You were desperate," he snapped back. "Besides, I didn't know they were still alive." "Then let's end this stupid research now," Amora said. But before she could continue, Sod cut in. "Why did we come all this way if we won't even get life bloom? Chak died for nothing." The team fell silent, the weight of Soda's words sank in. One by one they knew they had to stay together. "We stay together," Bamadil advised, wiping his face. "And this time we will be more careful." With renewed determination they turned toward the dark forest once more and ventured deeper. The nightmare had only just begun. Further into the forest the team stumbled upon a small abandoned hut. Exhausted and overwhelmed, they took shelter. Ife and Sod went inside while Amora remained outside with Bamadil. As they sat on a rock, Bamadil decided to share what he knew about life bloom. "It doesn't just heal," he whispered. "It has other properties, immortality." Amora widened her eyes. "You're joking," she said. Bamadil shook his head. "The rivermoors in these forests have lived for centuries because life bloom is part of their food chain. That's why they don't die of natural causes but grow so big." Before Amora could respond, a blood-curdling scream erupted from the hut. They rushed inside and saw the serpent descending from the roof. Its thick coils wrapped around Sod, and with one horrifying gulp it swallowed the postgraduate whole. Panic exploded. They bolted out of the hut, but Bamadil quickly pulled out a gun. He aimed at the snake, but before he could fire, the serpent slithered away into the darkness, dragging Soda's lifeless body with it. "We have to move." Bamadil barked. Amora sprinted outside, heart pounding, but realized she had run into the forest in fear. Bamadil shoved the gun into Ife's hands. "Watch over her. Use this gun if you have to." "I'll go after him," he said, then dashed into the dense foliage alone and terrified. Amora and Ife could not stay, that thing would come back. They needed to keep moving. As they carefully walked through the forest, something caught their attention, a faint, eerie glow in the distance. "What is that?" Ife asked, voice trembling. They moved toward the light. The glow grew clearer. It was life bloom, the glowing flower. But as they approached, they realized a small wooden bridge separated them from the plant. Below the bridge was a writhing mass of baby river moss. A chill ran down Amora's spine. "We need to leave." "This isn't worth it," Ife whispered. But Amora had other ideas. Her expression turned hard. "If we leave now, we've lost everything. Chak and Sod died for nothing," she said, tossing her back. "Go across the bridge and pick the flowers." Ife's eyes widened in horror. "You're insane," she whispered. Amora raised the gun and fired a shot into the air to make her point. The loud bang echoed through the trees. Trembling, Ife stepped onto the fragile bridge. The old wooden planks creaked beneath her weight. Below, baby rivermoors writhed hungrily, curling and uncaring. Ife reached the other side, crouched beside life bloom, and with trembling hands plucked a few stems, stuffing them into the bag. She quickly added a few extra flowers into her pockets, just in case. Just as she secured the last one, a loud hiss echoed through the air. From the shadows a fully grown rivermoor emerged, eyes gleaming. Its massive form lunged toward her. "Amora, help me!" Ife screamed. Amora hesitated, then took a step forward. "Throw me the bag," she demanded, desperate. Ife believed her and tossed the bag toward Amora, expecting her to shoot the snake. But instead of helping, Amora caught the bag and ran, abandoning Ife. "No. Please come back." Ife begged, but it was too late. The rivermoor struck. Ife barely escaped its massive jaws, scrambled to her feet and fell onto the fragile bridge. Her weight caused the old wood to snap beneath her. She plummeted into the pit of baby rivermoors. Her screams echoed through the forest as she struggled. Something strange then happened. A live bloom flower tucked in her pocket fell into the water and released a strange scent. The baby river moss, which had been slithering toward her, suddenly stopped and hesitated, as if they no longer recognized her as prey. Taking advantage of the pause, Ife crawled out of the pit alive and unharmed. She didn't question her luck, she sprinted away into the forest determined to survive. Amora ran blindly through the dense undergrowth, breath ragged and mind racing. She clutched the bag of live bloom tightly. She had what she came for, she could live and be safe. But as she ran she suddenly tripped over something hard and tumbled forward. The bag flew from her grasp. Standing before her was Bamadil, gun in hand, eyes burning with fury. "Where is it?" he demanded. Amora hesitated. She didn't make it," she lied. Bamadil's eyes narrowed. "You left her, didn't you?" he said. Amora said nothing, that was enough confirmation. Bamadil raised the gun. "You don't deserve to walk out of here," he muttered. Before he could pull the trigger another hiss cut through the silence. The trees rustled violently and a giant river moss slid into view. Without thinking, Amora grabbed the bag of live bloom and ran, leaving Bamadil to fend for himself. Bamadil turned and ran, but the river moss was faster. Its coils wrapped around him and he screamed as life squeezed out of him. The forest fell silent once more. Amora stumbled through the trees, breath ragged and mind reeling. She had no idea where she was, only that she had to survive. A rustling made her spin around. Bamadil emerged from the darkness, covered in dirt and sweat. He had the bag. He panted and held up the live bloom. "We have to get out of here," he said. A weak voice called from the shadows. They turned. Miraculously, Ife emerged alive. Amora gasped and rushed to her. "How are you alive?" "Thank God." Ife trembled. "I crawled out of the pit. The live bloom saved me," she said. Bamadil, confused, glanced at the glowing flower in the bag. Realization dawned on him. Live bloom was more powerful than they had thought. But before they could celebrate, the Queen River Moss emerged. It was bigger than anything they had ever seen. Its massive body glided across the ground like liquid death and its unblinking eyes locked onto them. Bamadil cocked the gun. "Run," he shouted. He didn't hesitate. Amora grabbed the bag and bolted. Bamadil raised the weapon and fired. The shots echoed through the trees, but the serpent didn't stop. It launched itself at him. Bamadil dove aside, barely avoiding death. He rolled to his feet and fired again, aiming for the serpent's eyes. The bullet struck, the river moss let out a deafening screech, thrashed violently and slammed into trees, shaking the ground. With nowhere left to run, the trail reached the edge of a cliff. Below, a river snaked through the valley, its waters were their only escape. "We have to jump," Amora shouted. "Are you insane?" Ife gasped. "There's no other way," Bamadil yelled back. The Queen River Moss launched its massive body, knocking over trees in its wake. With no time left, they jumped. Air rushed past them as they plunged into the river below. Cold water swallowed them. For a moment everything was silent, then they surfaced, gasping for breath. They swam to the nearest shore, pulling themselves onto the muddy bank, coughing and shivering. They lay exhausted but alive. Bamadil rolled onto his back staring at the sky. "We made it," he panted. He looked around, mind still racing. The forest loomed in the distance, but the nightmare was finally behind them. When they got back to Noro village, Amora and Ife returned to the university and went straight to Dr. Balegan's office, still shaking from their ordeal. They narrated everything they had been through, the horrors of Ebonwood, their near-death experiences, and the tragic loss of Tola, Chike, and Sod. Dr. Balegan was furious. He slammed his fist on the desk. "Professor Mensah is from this region," he fumed. "He should have known better. Why would he send students into something so dangerous, all in the name of research?" Meanwhile, in his office, Professor Mensah was enjoying himself with a female student when two policemen burst in. "You are under arrest for the murder of the student under your supervision," one officer announced, flashing his ID. "This must be a mistake," Mensah stammered, but before he could explain further he was handcuffed and led out of his office. As he was marched through the university corridors, students gathered around whispering and laughing. One student chuckled, "I heard he was caught sleeping with a student." Humiliation followed him as he was shoved into a police van. A few months later Professor Mensah was sentenced to life in prison. His crimes, abuse of power, negligence, and the deaths of his students had sealed his fate. Justice had been served. A new supervisor was assigned to Amora and Ife. They focused on completing their research. The properties of live bloom were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Its compounds exhibited extraordinary healing abilities, accelerating cell regeneration and curing wounds that would normally take weeks to heal. The plant had the potential to revolutionize modern medicine. Their research was published in international journals, drawing attention from pharmaceutical companies across the globe. The National Department took notice and the university held a grand ceremony in their honor. Soon after, Amora and Ife received an invitation from one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the United States. They had been offered prestigious research positions, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As they boarded the plane, they looked at each other and smiled. They had survived the horrors of Ebonwood Forest. They had lost friends, endured betrayal, and escaped death, but in the end their perseverance had changed the world. As the plane lifted into the sky leaving their homeland behind, Amora whispered, "We made it, Ife. We're just getting started." Moral lesson. True achievement must be built on integrity and courage, not shortcuts or exploitation. Greed and abuse of power endanger others and bring ruin, but perseverance, loyalty, and selfless action can turn tragedy into progress. Respect for others and ethical conduct in pursuit of knowledge ensure that discoveries benefit humanity rather than destroy it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more African story.